Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in today's session. I am Sneha from Duo Circle, and I'll be your host for today. So, today's topic is something that we all have gone through, right? It's about performing under pressure. And we've had those moments where we know that we are ready, or we know that we are confident, we are ready with all our uh, you know uh, things or all our tasks, but when it comes to actually delivering it, things don't go as expected. And while in this process we sometimes panic, we sometimes choke. By the way, these two things are not same. We'll discuss that in today's call. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what to do, right? So today we will be talking about what happens during these high pressure moments. And to help us through this, we have Shreyas Saranathan with us, and he brings over 15 years of experience, both from corporate as well as his entrepreneurial journey. And he's going to share some practical tips, insights from his real life examples. He will be sharing which will help us, all of us, and mostly from founders, entrepreneurs, independent doers to handle these high pressure moments, right? So over to you, Shreyas. The stage is all yours now, and you can briefly introduce yourself and take the session ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Neha. I'll just project my slides. So, yeah, are you able to see my?
Yeah.
Uh, okay. So, 1 second. I will just. Yes. So, thanks everyone for sparing your precious afternoons or evenings in Singapore if you're based out of here and taking a few moments out. For this important conversation on sustaining peak performance and what elite athletes can teach us entrepreneurs. Thanks, Neha, for that wonderful introduction. And a little bit about myself in a little more detail. So, I am co founder and director at EST Solutions, which is part of WipCure Solutions. It's a boutique executive coaching and business consulting firm. In my past life, I've spent 15 years in corporate, primarily in the fast-moving consumer goods and the energy automation industry, across various roles across South and Southeast Asia. Effectively, the last decade, Southeast Asia has been my home or second home, so to say. And 5 years ago, I quit corporate and founded my first venture, which was a cloud kitchen based out of Malaysia. Once it turned profitable and we realized that we could not uh, take the burn or the burnout anymore, I exited that venture. And I was then at the crossroads. And that's where this story effectively begins. So I was doing some small assignments and I had uh, taken up a couple of short-term assignments on board. I'd also discovered executive coaching, and I was constantly in the lookout for ways and means to improve my personal productivity. And that's when I stumbled upon a study on elite athletes and what really made them tick. And as I went deeper into the subject, I read a little more and I wrote a 12-page essay or ebook, I would like to call it. And this talk intends to bring those learnings to life, right? So, since this is related to sports, I think it makes sense that I start with a small uh, video. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. So to those assembled here, can anybody, fastest fingers first, identify who this tennis player of the 90s is? I am actually not able to see the comments. So maybe Sneha
Let
can
me
help.
just check.
All right. I think I will proceed. So This is Jana Novotná, the famous Czech player. And to give a little bit of context, this is the final of Wimbledon 1993, where she is playing the champion of champions of that era, Steffi Graf. Now, watch what happens. She's completely dominating this game. Of course, there are some wonderful points played by Steffi Graf as well. But Jana Novotná has the game fully under control. Keep a close watch on the score. And that's a beautiful cross-court volley, which essentially, sorry, I have to just go back. And she is just 4 points away from, what would be glory for her. And then this is what happens. A huge double fault and a big miss, not by a few centimeters, but a few feet. Oh, this is a shot that would have been breakfast or supper for Jana Novotná on a different day, but not to be on that particular day. And I'll stop the video here and to give context, right? Before I give the full story, can we have some thoughts from the audience on what they really saw and what came up? Please feel free to type in your comments in the comments. And Sneha, you have to help me again if you see any coming up.
As of now, there's none. But yeah, we can continue.
All right. So to give context again, so this was a game in which she completely lost all the points from there onwards, completely lost composure. And in sports, this is called choking. And not any other words, but choking is the word that is used or the term that's used for this kind of a situation, right? And in real life, in normal life, for you and me, would be called freezing or choking again. Now, let's look at the case of an investor presentation, right? Now, you're preparing for the past, couple of months for this big investor presentation. You've analyzed truckloads of data. You've looked at the trend lines. You have made beautiful decks. You and your co-founder have built together a beautiful story. And all that requires is a wonderful delivery. But in front of the sharp gazes of the investors, you completely freeze. The words don't flow as you had practiced them. The thought process is all over the place, and you come across as completely lacking confidence and conviction. Of course, the investments don't come through, right? Now, this again would be called panicking in usual day-to-day life. But this is not panicking. This is freezing. And if you talk to any behavioral scientist or psychologist, they'll tell you that choking or freezing is not the same as panicking. Let's look at it and why, right? Choking is about thinking too much. What just happened to Jana Novotná there? She was thinking about the last 4 5 points. She was thinking about the result. She was thinking about how she would feel winning the championship and holding the trophy. And that's when the choke happened. Panicking is about thinking too little. Choking is about a loss of instinct. Panicking is about reversion to instinct. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's take another case, a hypothetical case of Vijay, who's a truck driver who's has thousands of kilometers and thousands of hours of driving on the roads, on the highways between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur on a regular basis. But one uh, rainy evening, he sees a pileup of cars in front of him, and instead of braking, our friend presses on the accelerator, and the truck plunges headlong into the pile of cars. Now, what just happened there? What happened there was that the brain shifted into a flight mode, right? So the ancient brain, so basically the brain is composed of the ancient brain and the more evolved modern brain. So the ancient brain is located at the base of the brain, and it's a small, it's the main uh, epicenter of that is called the amygdala, which is an almond shaped unit in the lower brain or the ancient brain, right? Now, when he saw a pileup of cars, the ancient brain interpreted that as a tiger, which the ancient man during evolution would have seen. And the first thing he would have done is ran away from the place. And that's exactly what Vijay did. He pressed on the accelerator, and there the crash happened. Now, choking is when the brain shifts from an implicit learning mode to an explicit learning mode. I'll talk about this in the next slide. And panicking happens when, just like I explained earlier, when short-term memory shifts into a long-term memory or the instincts. Choking is more difficult to manage because it requires a lot more mental preparation. Panicking, however, can be managed with a lot of physical preparation, and it's easier to prepare for, right? Now, coming back to the implicit and explicit learning bit. So what is implicit learning? Or sorry, what is explicit learning? Explicit learning is a conscious acquisition of knowledge and skill. And it is basically, let's take another example of, let's say, since we are on sports, this is about a 3-year-old girl who's just beginning to learn to swim. So how does she learn to swim? She first learns to bubble under the water, then she learns to float, and then her instructor will teach her how to, flap her hands and paddle her feet. This process continues for a period of a few months, after which the motions or the movements flow naturally and the girl begins to lap on the pole, right? Now, this is what is explicit learning. Let's take the example of learning, let's say Mandarin, Chinese, right? The first step is to understand the 4 tones of Mandarin. The next step is to kind of fit words to the 4 tones. And the last step is of to string together sentences using words, right? Once this process is through, implicit learning kicks in and the skill flows naturally. You begin to speak with people comfortably in Mandarin. And this is, uh, and coming back to this Yana Novotna's example. So, what happened in the last 4 points was that her brain shifted from implicit learning to explicit learning. So the Yana Novotna, who was winning so many points till then, suddenly goes back to the Yana Novotna of goes back to the 5-year-old Yana Novotna who had just picked up the racket and just begun to play her shots. And that's why when you saw those shots, there was so much gap between the baseline and the place where the ball fell. Now, all of this theory is great, but why is it relevant and how is it relevant for us entrepreneurs, right? It is relevant because as an entrepreneur, every day is a new day, right? And every day you go through multiple challenges and multiple question marks, and you have to put on multiple hats during the course of your journey. And understanding these helps you understand your pressure responses better. And understanding these pressure responses helps you obviously be prepared for these difficult situations and therefore prevent costly mistakes. It helps build resilience because as an entrepreneur, everybody has their own way of coping with pressure responses and reacting to pressure responses. So when you have a better understanding, then people will try and figure out what really works for them. Maybe deep breathing, maybe meditation, and all these things help in overall building resilience in the long term, right? And what's the result? The result is, of course, improved decision making. And with improved decision making and a calmer exterior and a calmer you comes great respect from your team, from who fall in line more comfortably, who are very secure in the fact that their leader is so calm under difficult situations, right? So now coming to the real crux of this conversation, right? So what can elite athletes teach us, entrepreneurs, and how do they prevent choking? Well, the first big thing, which is common, which I studied and was common to all great athletes, is that they all believe in the power of visualization. Take Jack Nicklaus, or you take the great Sachin Tendulkar or Roger Federer. They are all on record of having said that visualization, which is succeeding in an event even before it occurs, helps them greatly. Personally, for me, visualization helps a lot. So I do spend time almost every day in trying to visualize what my year would look like, what my quarter would look like, what my month would look like in terms of revenues, profitability, in terms of new clients added, in terms of servicing existing clients. And that has, I can comfortably say on this forum, that that has translated into the results that I have visualized. Of course, visualization is the first step before planning and execution. So planning and execution has to follow the visualization, but visualization is equally important. For example, like today's conversation. Now, for the last 1 week, every day I would set out 10, 5 to 10 minutes of time just to visualize what this conversation would look like. What would be the issues that might come up, the tech issues that might come up while I'm presenting? What could be the kind of questions that might be asked? Well, so far, no questions have asked. Nobody's stopped me, but hoping that there will be more questions that come up. And second thing is that practicing for uncertainty and pressure, right? Now, I think Manchester United fans would know that a few years ago, the then coach of Manchester United, Eric Ten Hag, was in the news for introducing wrong-footed coaching during training. Now, similarly, one of the biggest examples of practicing for uncertainty from the world of sports is from Michael Phelps, the one of the greatest of all time swimmers, who has on record stated that his coach would break his goggles during practice drills just to simulate race day when and if water entered the goggles during the race, right? So practicing for uncertainty and pressure is an absolute must. Now, the third thing, which I personally have failed miserably in, but I'm still trying to correct it, is on following pre-performance routines. Uh, for example, I think one of the most covered cases of pre-performance routines is that of the 12-step routine that Rafael Nadal follows before every serve, or used to follow before every serve. Uh, Anybody here in the audience who would want to chip in and share if they know about those 12-step routines? I do see something pop up in the chat.
Yeah, somebody is asking if meditation can help in the question Q&A.
Okay.
No, who is that? But it's apart from what you just asked.
Yes, so maybe I'll take that question, Sneha, with your permission.
Yeah, 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 sure.
Yeah, so definitely meditation is an absolute must, I would say, for an entrepreneur. Building it in a routine is something which I think is equally important, right? We all go through difficult moments. So meditation helps us generally, kind of build those neural networks, neural connections in such a manner that we are calmer under pressure. And that's one. And second, meditation can also be used for visualization. So you could go into a visualization mode as part of your meditation practice. So definitely meditation will help. Uh, so any other
Oh,
question there, Sneha, or I
oh,
can
not right
continue?
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. So following pre-performance routines, so like I was talking about Nadal's pre-performance routines. So he had this very quirky 12-step routine where before every serve, he would tap his feet, rub off the clay from his shoes, clear the baseline of aliens or imagined aliens, and then adjust his jersey, and then wipe his brow, his cheek, and he would do this for every single serve. And he's on record to have said that this kind of helps him be present, be focused on the immediate, and focus on the next point. And you talk to any elite sports person and they'll tell you that pre-performance routines are a must. So there's another very famous example of Rahul Dravid, the legendary Indian cricketer, who would go into isolation one day before a test match. So if he was on tour with his family, one day before the test match, he would just take a separate room and prepare for the match day, doing multiple things: reading book, visualization, looking at his past videos, and multiple things like that. Another very important thing which elite athletes do is to not overthink it. And as humans, this is probably the toughest thing, right? I mean, you are preparing for the big event. So you obviously are doing the preparation because you want to succeed in the big event. Then how do you tell your brain not to think about the big event, right? But there are some very good examples, and the classic example is of Usain Bolt. So if any of you has seen his races, you would notice that before the race, unlike all his competitors who would be focused on the racetrack and would be, either looking at the racetrack or talking to themselves or, cheering or just waving to the crowd, Usain Bolt would do all of that, but he would also walk around talking to the people on the side, joking with the cameraman. And he would say that this helped him really take his mind off the race just before the race. The next one is, of course, disconnecting from the result, which is interrelated to the previous point. So, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, the famous Indian captain, is on record almost, like a broken record of saying that, he always focused on the process and the preparation and always disconnected from the result, right? Easier said than done, but it is something that really is helpful. Engaging a coach or mentor. Well, this is something which is an absolute must, I would say, as an entrepreneur myself. I work with a couple of coaches and a mentor myself. Um, this is again, evolved from the sporting domain. So in the 90s, the concept of the mental conditioning coach, along with the technical coach, started seeping into the world of sport. And it took the world of sport by rage, right? And for example, the World Cup winning team, the Indian cricket World Cup winning team, the World Cup winning team of 2011, it had Paddy Upton as its mental conditioning coach for almost 3 years, 2008 to 2011, and that was a time when the team saw multiple wins across formats. So, as an entrepreneur, please look out for a coach or a mentor. You need somebody with whom you can bounce off ideas. You need an accountability partner. You also need someone who can kind of be uh, with you in that journey, right? And this is the bonus one, the seventh hack, which is not there in my ebook, but I've learned this speaking to a few people, which is on focusing on recovery. So, great sportsmen, whether it's a Novak Djokovic or a Roger Federer, there have been times in their careers when they have just gone off the tennis court and not picked a racket for months. During this time, they would focus only on their mental preparation and their physical conditioning, but they would not touch the racket. Similarly, for us entrepreneurs, it's most important that we too take breaks. I know it's difficult because we're always constantly thinking about the top line, the bottom line, and all the other important metrics. But it's important for us to not burn out. And so that's it from me, and happy to take questions from here.
So there's
And
there's a question
yeah,
that says founders work hard. Do you feel if matching with athletes would put extra pressure on them?
um, I
As in, as
think,
in, as in, as in, as in the question is because we are talking about founders.
right.
Founders work hard, but athletes, I mean, they are on the field all the time. Like, so are we comparing
No,
it correctly?
athletes,
Do you feel?
okay. Yeah. No, absolutely not. So athletes, it seems like they are on the field all the time, but it's not. So that's the point that I'm trying to make, that they also take their moments, like, focusing on routines, focusing on recovery. All these aspects are very important for athletes as well. And of course, working hard, whether it's an athlete or a founder, you have to work hard if you want to really see the results that you want to see. But yes, recovery is important. Having that balance is very, very important as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I
what about
would.
mental training? I guess you talked about it, but if you can elaborate more on, is there any training or course that can help uh, to support this?
So there are, of course, programs like, if you want to learn meditation, a proper approach to meditation, there are meditation courses available. So it's good to, go for structured meditation programs, because doing meditation on your own is one thing, but going for a program and learning how to do it is helpful. Other mental programming aspects is, see, I think in getting around to speak with your coach or your mentor will kind of open up a lot of pathways and doors in your mind. So that's something, again, that I would definitely encourage. Plus, of course, there are other forums like, people go for Vipassana, people go for trekking, backpacking and
Yeah,
trekking, and that these are just,
taking some time off. Yeah,
yes, yes, and just to spend some time with yourself to, prepare mentally. Yeah.
yeah, got it. We have one more question. If you wanted to get started with applying these hacks and principles, what would you start with?
Oh, I think that's an easy question for me, because I would say that start with something which is easiest for you to execute. For example, for me, visualization was the easiest to execute. Following
Yeah,
pre-performance routines was something I find really difficult, because every day is tends to be different. I mean, though that's not an excuse, but I know entrepreneurs, I know I have friends who follow very good strict routines. Like, they wake up, for example, just one pre-performance routine I can talk about is one of my friends who's a successful entrepreneur. He wakes up very early. He spends a few minutes, journaling. Then he will do spend about an hour, close to an hour, working out. Post that, he does his meditation, and then only he begins his day. Uh, so I would say, please follow what works for you, and if you see some success in whatever you are following, that will kind of be such a positive spiral for you that you will start doing other things also very naturally.
yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
We can continue.
So, I mean, this is the last slide. So,
Yeah.
primarily,
Okay.
this is uh, uh, my coordinates. So, I'm based out of Singapore, and please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you want a copy of the book, just ping me there on LinkedIn, and I will send out a copy to you.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you so much for giving your inputs, Shreyas. And I think people over here would definitely take some learnings out of it and would apply in their daily lives. I think more from a personal as well as professional levels as well. So thank you so much for joining
Thank
in
you.
and sharing your inputs. And thank you, participants, for asking your questions. I think these really help all independent doers. So thank you so much, everyone. So we'll close the session.